Welcome, everyone. We appreciate you coming in today. We're going to allow people to shuffle in, and we'll start right around 1 o'clock, 1:01. There's a lot of people filing in. Good crowd. And again, folks, thank you for attending. We're going to start up very soon. We're just going to allow more people to file in. Okay, we're at 1 o'clock. People can filter in as they need. So we'll start up now. So again, thank you for attending today. My name is Kevin Lehan. I'm the National Sales and Marketing Manager for Emergency 24. And today we're going to have Shay and Scott from Cornerstone Billing Solutions explaining how their service and their system is going to help you collect from your customers a little bit quicker. And of course, besides having a quality installation, getting paid for your services is the second most important thing in an alarm business. So I'm going to hand it off to Scott. He has control, and please do use the question and answer function, and we will answer any questions you might have. So enjoy. Enjoy.
Thanks very much, Kevin. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. Happy Wednesday. So we will get to what Cornerstone is, what we do near the end of the presentation, and many of the things that we will demo today in this slideshow will use what we've learned over the years as a billing and collections company. We do a lot more than that, but we've learned a lot of lessons. We've been doing basically billing, payment processing, and what's called first-party collections. So that's really where the dealer does not have time to do collections. They really want to use us as a service to collect on their behalf. We've been doing that for about 15 years. We currently do it for, I think, 35, 40 companies, some very large companies. So we'll talk about what we've learned over the years and really how you can implement some of the things that we have learned, really best practices. So a little bit about myself and Shay. You can read this. Basically, our company is really about efficiency. We've been around for 22 years. We went to the cloud 20 years ago next month. So we were a very early adapter of the cloud technology, and we put the system up in 2001, and really from that point on, the internet made things so much more efficient as far as the things that we did, as well as providing software to security dealers. So we only work in this industry, no other industries. Something like 10,000 security companies across the country. So it's a pretty large market, and we're finding that we are helping dealers both with the software and with some of the services we provide. So you're a high quality dealer. You've got great relationships with your customers, amazing customer support, technology, and here you sit with an installed system and not getting paid. It's just absolutely annoying and almost inconceivable. But that's why we have this today's presentation. It does happen. Over the next 30 minutes, we will go through a couple of, there are two parts really to this, this presentation. And this is really blocking and tackling. So we're not going to, not a lot of high tech stuff, a lot of practical things that we've learned and tips that you can implement, hopefully in your software, your system, to get paid faster. First part of the presentation is really avoiding receivables. You don't have to collect it if you don't have a receivable. And if you cannot avoid receivables, execute a well-documented quality process like clockwork. That's what we do. So let's start with the invoice itself. Crystal clear invoices make a huge difference. You need to include on every invoice, who it's from, when it's due, where to call, exactly what it's for, and then how do I pay. Anything you need to reference, such as a customer number. So that said, let's take a look at the format that we use on this is a recurring invoice, and we'll look at each section of the invoice and kind of go through things that we implement in our own billing processes. So you can see here, crystal clear who it's from, crystal clear when it was issued and when it's due, customer number to reference, invoice number to reference, who do I call if I have questions. So there's no redundancy here. It should be very clear to the customer what it's coming from, what it's for, when it's due. We in our system implement two different terms. So with recurring invoicing, most companies are billing in advance, and we do this. We set up basically terms for recurring invoices, and for product invoices, basically non-recurring invoices. And it usually makes sense to have two different terms. So since you're billing recurring in advance, 20, 25, maybe 30 days to pay a recurring invoice. For non-recurring product invoices, usually it's either due upon receipt or a very short term to get paid quickly and not have your receivable. So a good idea to basically set different terms for those different types of invoices. So the middle section of our invoices, pretty straightforward. The one thing I want to point out here is we think it's important to let a customer know 100% of what they owe. So if they have a previous unpaid invoice that is sitting there, our invoices double as statements. They really provide that prior open invoice, in this case, a little over $70, and then what is due for the upcoming service period. So this is a couple of services and tax, and obviously your total. So that way they know exactly what they owe in total and are more likely to pay the total. We also use messaging in our invoices, so you can let them know, let's say, how do you test your alarm. We use the backside of the invoice to do lots of different things, newsletters, promote things like alarm.com services and the like. If you have late fees, good idea to let the customer know on every invoice that you do have late fees and what that fee looks like. So let's take a non-recurring invoice. This is a service invoice. Actually, this is an installation invoice. Really important, again, that it be crystal clear. This is the second half of an installation payment, installation invoice. And you can see here, it looks like 8 different line items, very specific as to what was installed, how many of each item was installed. Again, no ambiguity. The customer knows what was installed, what they're being billed for. Very straightforward, very precise. So the bottom section of our invoices is really the tear off stub. So it's the call to action, and we provide other ways to pay. Ideally, they don't send a check in. If they do send a check in, there's a reminder, include your customer number. We always solicit payments via credit card here, and we give them the opportunity to sign up for auto pay. We'll talk about that more in a minute. So they could say, I want to use this credit card for this bill, or from now on. And if they check from now on, you've got an auto pay customer, and hopefully never have a receivable again from that subscriber. We have a payment portal. Hopefully, those of you out there have some kind of payment portal that allows the customer to easily go and pay their bill online. Our site is alarmpayments.com. That website links to the underlying invoice detail. So if you've got a customer that owes 2 invoices, they log into Alarm Payments. They're going to see your information, so XYZ security. They're going to see what they owe. They're going to see the details about that bill. They're going to see their name. They then check the boxes next to the open invoices, and from there on, it's a typical online checkout process. So very, very important these days to have an online means to take payment. So in terms of avoiding receivables, pretty straightforward. Push for automatic payment whenever possible, or if it's a service or installation invoice, immediate payment. We'll talk about ways to do that next. So for recurring, this is our software. There's a drop-down box with all possible billing methods. Obviously, you want the auto pay methods there in the middle. So just to break, talk about statistics. From 2013 to 2020, you can see the changes in payment methods. So ACHs are in blue at the bottom there, credit card payments in orange, and check payments in gray. You can see the big trend here is more and more credit card and less check payments. The other thing I should note is, I'm going to show you the percentages here, that 33% check payments, about half of that is actually bill pay services. So online payment, they sign up with their bank bill pay, and we process a large number of those. In those cases, they're not really checks. We basically get an ACH. So it's much more efficient for us to process, but it's become less and less likely that somebody's going to physically cut a check and mail a check. They're going to use one of the auto pay methods, probably credit card, because they want those miles and they want some kind of credit card bonus. ACH really is probably the best way to take payment from your customers, mainly because it's very reliable and it's very low cost. You don't pay the merchant percentage. So paper bills include all of our bills include this little box with a credit card number, and you can use the back side of the invoice. You see the bottom there. It's basically sign up for, we call it Easy Pay. Basically, it's an auto pay solicitation. So if they send back in that check, they can put their bank account number, their routing number, and basically you can then set that up. Or if we happen to be receiving that payment, we will look at that. We'll set them up using their authorization here. So any email bills that go out of our system include the payment portal, which is, we talked about Alarm Payments. Again, a call to action. Hopefully they click that link, they log in, they pay the bill. Any payments they make, we as a billing services company will post those payments. So it saves our dealers a lot of time and energy. They can also use that Alarm Payments site to update, let's say, an expiring credit card. And we send reminders out, basically prompting them to do that. So let's talk a little about carrots and sticks as far as getting automatic payments set up. So a lower monthly rate, always a possibility. I know with some companies, they basically say it's X dollars a month. If you pay by credit card or pay by ACH, they knock a buck or two a month off that, just so they don't have to hassle with a possible receivable and chasing after it. Maybe lock in their rate. So if you have 3-year contracts, you say if you sign up for auto pay, we're going to leave your price as is, or we won't won't change your rates for at least 3 years, 5 years, whatever you choose. As far as sticks go, late fees, I'm not a big fan of late fees, but they can be very effective. I think if you do use late fees, be fairly generous to give them enough time to pay. Only use it for the truly chronic past due subscribers, and you probably know who they are. So they don't kick in until it's clear that they're well past due. And more our customers are turning to paper invoicing fees. So paper is a pretty expensive way to take payment. Obviously, check comes in, you receive the check, you open it up, you look it up, you post that payment, then you need to do a deposit. Fairly expensive if you add up all that time, energy to do the many steps processing a paper check. So encouraging auto pay, and we'll talk about on the next slide, paper invoicing fee is one option, one way to go. Many of our dealers have worked with us through our cloud-based platform to implement Going Green initiatives. So this is really an effective way to try to migrate a fairly large percentage of your subscribers to autopay. So we would normally send out letters, send out email blasts. The customer can make calls to their subscribers, basically pushing it over, let's say, a 3-month period, saying to their subscribers, hey, we really don't want to kill any more trees. We want to make everything automated. That makes us more efficient, helps us keep our costs down to you. So please sign up for auto pay. And then again, you can also use the stick and say, by the way, in about a year, we're going to implement a paper invoicing fee. So that tends to get their attention. These days, as you saw, most payments are credit card, ACH anyway. So this is a chance for them to say, sure, go ahead. Here's my card. Just use this for future bills. So let's talk about service invoicing, basically non-recurring invoicing. Pre-authorization, we'll talk about that more in a second. Basically getting the customers okay that yes, this is a billable service call and I do expect payment, when I'm done today. Ask to use the auto pay method on file. So the higher percentage you've got of customers that have auto pay already in your system, the easier it's going to be to have them say, sure, go ahead and use my credit card that you use for my recurring to pay this $300 time materials service invoice. You can implement something like a field swipe option, Square, basically a way to take a card swipe in the field. That can be tricky depending on whether it's integrated with your back-end system, your GL or not. You can use a payment portal like the one we've got, Alarm Payments. If you don't have a payment portal, I really think you ought to look into getting one set up. It's people pretty much expect to be able to pay online these days. And obviously take a check, before you leave. It's a source of amazement that security companies would do a service call and leave without getting paid. I can't remember in the last 20 years having a contractor come to my house to do something, fix something, and not have them basically get a payment from me before they left. It's basically standard practice. So pre-authorization. So again, in our software, and your software may have this as well, being able to hand an iPad to them, maybe not today, but hopefully in the near future, and say, do you mind just signing that you know this is a billable service call? And that way, no questions asked, they owe you whatever for the service call at the end of that call when you're done with the work. Installation, so bigger jobs, a few things to say about these. I think that the big focus for your company should be starting with the quote, being very, very specific when you quote the job, specific payment terms, providing if let's say it's progress billing where you're taking a third upfront or various percentages, having an objective benchmark. So there's no subjectivity. There's no way for them to say, I didn't realize I needed to pay you. So can I send it next week? So no wiggle room. And basically, if you do have benchmarks, that you control those benchmarks so that, again, there's no subjectivity. It's objective, crystal clear as to when they will pay you, and basically you won't have to chase after a receivable. So this box here is one of our customers' payment terms. This is honestly pretty aggressive. I'm surprised they could get away with this, but I like it because it's very specific. It's very objective. So 40% upon acceptance of the proposal, 40% upon arrival. So they get there and they get another 40%, and then 20% when they're done with the job. So again, pretty aggressive payment terms, but very objective and very specific. So no reason to question when payment is due. All right, so I'm going to take a stop for just a second. I'm hoping that Kevin may have a question or two before we get into the second part, which is more the process of managing your receivables when you cannot avoid them. So Kevin, if you have,
yeah, I did have a question.
Sure.
You had said that you put messaging on the invoices. Would that be to teach someone about a dealer app or whatever the message is? Can that rotate? How does that work?
Yeah, good question. We really do the messaging as a billing company on recurring invoices. Every month, if our dealer wants to change the message, they can do that. So we basically have a place in the software for them to choose the message. We've got a couple of dozen different messages, wide range, things like, October is National Fire Prevention Month, promoting alarm.com services, other interactive services, refer a friend and get $50 credit off your monitoring bill. So yes, our dealers can rotate those messages, and they can use the stock messages that we've already developed over the past 20 years, or if they have a newsletter, they can send us that newsletter. We can mock it up, get their okay on it, and then use that on the back side. I know it's a short newsletter, but it's a way to communicate. So good question.
Excellent. Thank you. Another question. Do quotes have different payment options built in? How customizable are quotes?
Yeah, great question. Very customizable. At the very end of this, we'll provide a little more info. We've got a series of videos that you can go view. One of those videos is on quotes, but built into quotes is a series of payment options. So let's say a third, a third, a third. So you want to get paid in thirds, 50-50, 100% upfront. I think there's about 15 or 20 different kind of stock options that it's one click to select that, basically the progress payments to be made, a progress billing that'll happen on that quote if it's accepted. But good question. On the quotes video, if anybody looks at that, it'll show you can make a very, very simple 1 or 2 page quote. If it's a basic system, you can have an 8 or 10 page quote with pictures and descriptions of the parts, a lot of information about your company. So you can make it very sophisticated, very, very pretty, very professional. And our customers decide when they do the quote, how either simple or more sophisticated they want to make that quote.
Excellent. Thank you.
Sure.
I don't have any others right now.
All right. So let's talk about the process. Basically managing your receivables. So we do a lot of this as part of our business. I think we do as many millions of dollars every month that we're processing in the collections role that we play, the first party collections. We find it to be very, very simple. It as annoying as collections can be, if you have a good process, you're going to have good results. And we look at it very much like parenting. So if you set expectations as a parent, obviously to have a well-behaved child, you need to follow through on those expectations. So the first part of the presentation talked about crystal clear invoices, having all of the details there so the customer wouldn't have any questions, phone numbers to call, etc. So following through, letting them know, hey, it's due on this date. And if you don't, you don't pay on that date, we have a process, and that's what we're going to talk about next. So before we do that, just to throw this out there, we, as a part of our business being collections, ran some numbers, did a little number crunching, and I had a question for our audience. For every $100 billed, what do you think is the percentage that slips to the past due category? Think about that a second. Of the amount that slips to the past due category, what percent would you expect is typically collected prior to cutoff or 90 days? We pretty much run our follow-up processes through 90 days. And then we send on our dealer's behalf, basically letters, certified delivery receipt letters. The answers to these questions, based on about $5 million of billings we've done in one quarter, about 14%, so about 1 out of $7 across all of our dealers dropped into the past due category, required some collections follow-up. 85 to 90% of that ends up being collected through some of the process that we're going to talk about now. Complete customer information is critical. So not just a phone number, you need multiple people, multiple phone numbers, especially for commercial accounts. So this is a screenshot of the contact section in our software. In the old days, we had 2 slots for contacts, so contact 1, contact 2. Since then, because of this need, we've added 2 additional slots: accounts payable contact, service contact. So with these 4 contacts, all these phone numbers, you have lots of folks to try to get a hold of if you're looking to get paid. Email, same thing. Being able to email multiple contacts, critical part of good quality follow-up. So let's go through kind of the main points that we want to make on, okay, you've got receivables. How do you work them? What are the keys to success for getting paid if you cannot avoid a receivable? First, start early. Let's see if I can move this over. Start early, within 5 to 10 days of the due date. The earlier you start, the more the customer knows, hey, this is going to be squeaky wheel. I don't want to get these calls, these texts. I should get caught up. I should go on auto pay. So starting early is really one of the main keys to getting paid promptly. Have a precise process. So we're talking about that now. You may have a different process. We'll talk about our process in a minute, but have a process and follow it. Use all contact methods. I can't emphasize this enough. In the old days, it was picking up the phone, calling, or maybe sending a statement out or a letter. We use all possible methods. We use calling, we use texting. Texting is very, very effective. A little tricky to do and to set up, but if you can set it up, very effective. Emails, somewhat less effective. Letters, statements. Make it easy to pay. So again, a payment portal is part of that, and keep paying. So you got to make it easy for the customer, or they're going to find a way not to get that money to you. As far as the style, we are always friendly in the work that we do. We're very direct because everything is crystal clear when the invoice is due. We can be direct, so there's no ambiguity about, hey, this was due 10 days ago. How can we make arrangements for payment? So this is a calendar. This is pretty close to what we do in our own process. So if a bill comes due on April 1st, there then are several steps that are put in place, and this is one set of processes. First, texting. We like texting first because we've set up a system to automate it. It's quite easy and inexpensive to do, and it'll take some of the low-hanging fruit. So somebody simply forgot to pay, we text a reminder. We include a link in that reminder to our payment portal. They can click on that link and they can pay it within a minute. So very effective. Again, I'll talk about that in a minute. Calling, so automated calling or in-person calling, also effective. We use automated calling. We found that's very, very effective if you have a friendly voice on the phone and just, hey, this is a quick reminder, your bill is due, please go to the site, pay it. If it's an automated calling process, it's also low cost as far as your time and energy is concerned. Emailing a copy of the statement, pretty obvious, that happens about the same time. Collection letters, one of the more expensive steps in the process. We would do that about 3 weeks in, typically 3 weeks past due, and then live collection calls about a month in. So this is a process. The main thing is develop one that you think works and stick to it. Do it the same month in, month out. So let's talk about texting. Emails, we all get inundated. Spam filters can take them out. Many emails are never even opened. 95% of texts are read within 3 minutes. So here you go. This is the reason to text. And in our experience, we had a batch of 330 texts that went out. And these were we took on a new customer and they had a bunch of fairly past due accounts getting close to cutoff. So we were sending 10-day reminder texts. We sent 330 of those subscribers, 25%. So 1/4 of those subscribers paid online within 1 day. So quite remarkable. And really, since we got started, we're leaning more and more on texting. You do need to go through a process, make sure you have textable phone numbers. If you have any questions about that, give us a call. We can explain how we did it, how we set it up. But the bottom line is texts work, and they reduce a lot of your receivables. They get rid of a big chunk of that follow-up work very efficiently without much human intervention. So I'm not going to spend time on this. We have sample texts. Again, if you want some tips on what you should be saying in these texts, we'll have contact info at the end, and feel free to talk to one of our people who does that. All right, so how do I track all of this activity? It's not easy. There's a lot of moving parts in collections. The typical method is print out an aging report and mark up the aging. That is one way to go, but it's honestly fairly clunky. So this, you won't know what this is, but basically in our own collections module, we built this module. We basically focus on making it easy and creating an interactive aging report. And the keys for us are statuses. What did we do last? And what do we do next? So last activity, next activity. And when does that next activity happen? So in this case, CL2 means collection letter 2 was sent. The next step for this group is to call them. And you can filter this by days past due. So it's pretty sophisticated. It's a powerful module. So the bottom line is, as far as tracking, ideally you track this activity through some kind of logging in your customer management software, and you track it in real time. You don't track it manually. You don't track it on a paper aging report. You try to track it using hopefully the tools that you have at your disposal in your software. So this is again, more statistics for your information. This is a recurring billing batch. We just wanted to show you across all of our customers what is the pattern of payment for a batch. So you issue a batch of invoices, recurring invoices. And basically, over 90 days, we get paid in chunks. By far, the biggest chunk is that first 30 days, and this is from date of the invoice, not the due date. So basically, you get a big chunk, largely auto pays right at the front end, and then you have another almost 9 out of $10 are in within 30 to 60 days from the invoice date, which would be 0 to 30 days due or past due. With a non-recurring billing batch, again, stats for your information. So these are service installation invoices, much lower as you would expect, about half, fairly quickly. That number should be going up as you get more auto pay folks, more people on auto pay, but about half in the first 30 days, and then hopefully $3 out of $4 is in 30 to 60 days. So this just gives you our experience. Wish these numbers were higher, but if you implement some of the things we talked about, you should be able to get more a lot more upfront, so you don't have those receivables in the first place. All right, so that's basically the gist of the collections best practices. Spend just a few minutes on our company and what we do, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions. So we are a cloud-based service and software provider. The software that our customers use is built for this industry, so it's full life cycle security industry software. We compete with MicroKey, Alarm Biller, Sedona, and other players in this industry. So we are a competitor to them. It's full-fledged service tickets, inventory, calendar, and we have videos on these. We'll get to that in just a minute. But basically, full life cycle customer management software really built for security dealers. Billing and payment services, we'll talk about that in a second. Collections, we've talked about some of the things we do. It's an optional service. And then various integrations tying to other platforms out there. So the thing that really sets us apart is we're not just a software company. We are a software and services company. So when we got started 22 years ago, we decided, you know what, we need to do some actual work for our dealers. We need to help them with their day-to-day by handling some of the routine activities. And that's proven to be a very successful model. And the reason is time is precious. Time is the only thing any of us really has. So if we can leverage the dealer's time and hopefully help them grow without adding a lot of staff, helping them keep their overhead low, you know, we're going to be valuable. We found that to be true. We have an extremely loyal customer base. So again, we do the work, and we'll get to what that work looks like here on these next couple of slides. So we have a dealer with 1,000 accounts issuing 500 invoices a month, and those invoices are a combination of paper, credit card, auto pay, and ACH auto pay. So about 50-50 paper and auto pay. What happens? When people think about recurring billing, they think usually about just step one. Step one of the process is issuing that recurring batch. Way back when, 20 years ago, it was mostly paper billing and paper checks. These days, way more complicated. We find companies come to us, they've got one system for paper, they've got another system for their ACHs, they've got another system for their credit card, a merchant account, and they may have an online payment portal that is kind of clunky to use. So our job as a billing agent for our security companies is to basically run their recurring billing batch and then proceed to the much more difficult part of this, and that is the payment processing. So in a batch of 500 invoices in, let's say, April, in May, we are going to be processing lots of payment batches. So if you think about it, every day you're going to have checks coming in the door. So we don't have to process checks for our companies, but we do for many because they want to simplify things as much as possible. So just about every business day, you're going to have some check batches to process. So that's the first bar shown here. Card auto pays. So we run batches on the 1st, the 8th, the 15th, and the 22nd to give subscribers multiple payment date options. Same for ACHs. Run those 4 batches of scheduled ACHs during the month. And then we've got lots and lots of online payments through alarmpayments.com. And we're settling those 3 to 4 times a week. So we've got multiple payment batches to settle and post for our dealers. And then we have reruns. So if auto pays do not clear, we have a whole rerun process to try to get those to clear. Usually it's about a week after the fact. So 46 payment batches typically we're running every month for our dealers, large and small. So smaller dealers may not have as many to do, but every day we've got at least a few batches of payments to run. So very complicated, a lot of work, and it's one of the main reasons that we're around. Basically simplify this for the dealer, and they basically need to make a journal entry to their accounting software and move on. So it's much simpler administratively. So they can definitely do this in-house. Why not? Basically, no matter who's on vacation or sick or out, it's going to be the bills are going to get done, the payments are going to get processed. We'll talk about advantages in a second. Lower cost, if you're honest about your true cost to handle billing, and especially the payment side, it should cost you no more to use us than it already does managing it with your own staff. And you're obviously getting better software in the bargain. So I'm not going to go into this, but if you have an interest in what we do, we have a cheat sheet of basically 20 plus reasons why we think we can do a better job on the recurring. We would love to send this to you. So if you say no way, they can do what we do. Send me an email and we will send you this one pager, and then you can do your own comparison. So in terms of learning more about our services and what we do, and especially about the software, you can take a tour if you go to alarmbills.com. Alarmbills.com is us on the web /tour. We've got 4 different modules here. So four different videos, basically an overview, a lot about the quotes module, the service module. We have color coded, drag and drop calendar, and then our mobile app for a field service technician. So feel free to go there to get more information. And with that, this is the final slide. So I'll take a break, drink of water, and I'm sure Kevin's got a few questions.
Oh, that was tremendous, Scott. Thank you. And yes, there are a few questions that have come through. Can you folks do bits and pieces? For example, they do the regular billing and then you just do the collections part of it?
We have not done that. In order to do the collections, we need to basically get data from a company. And the moment we get that data, it starts to become obsolete because they have ongoing recurring billing, they're doing service billing. So it's pretty tough to make that work efficiently. So, if we look at, I'm sure somebody have a question about what it costs to use us, but if you look at the all-in cost to do this, really it shouldn't be, I don't want, our dealers don't view it as expensive at all. They look at it as a really good deal. So the answer is no, we can't really take the collections piece and just do that. So, yeah.
Do you still need QuickBooks with this software?
You need some kind of general ledger. So the one piece that we didn't build into our software deliberately is the GL. Almost all of our dealers, probably 9 out of 10, use a GL like QuickBooks. We give them some very precise reports that allow them to run and print out a one-pager and basically do a journal entry into their QuickBooks at the end of the month or perhaps weekly. This year, we're going to be tying in with QuickBooks Online, so it's a more automated process. But yes, they will need a GL, but the back and forth is minimal. Most of the day-to-day customer account management, the billing, logging of notes, and customer feedback is all managed in our system. The GL is there to pay your vendors and the like.
Great. Do we have any more questions that need to be addressed?
Let me just address cost, because in our industry, cost is always, in any industry, cost is important. So if you look at what we do, I'm just going to take an example of a 1,000 account dealer with pretty close to the profile that you just saw, paper billing, non-paper billing. The cost for that dealer would be, including the service module, including the quotes module, including the billing, not including the check posting, they would be posting their own checks, would run about 65 cents per account per month. So 1,000 accounts be about $650. So very affordable. That includes the billing. The billing is about $400 of that total. And then basically the use of the system software, training, support, and a bunch of other things that we do be about $250. So that gives you an idea. The vast majority of our dealers pay less than $1, per account per month. And the differences are really, do they use all parts of the software? Do they use our check processing? Do they have, lots of additional users? So those would affect the cost. But all in, we think it's a very affordable option especially relative to many of our competitors.
And simply the time as well. I know
Yeah.
that some of our alarm contractors do their billing on the kitchen table with their partner. You know,
Right. Yeah.
you allow that extra weekend day.
Yeah. Well, we've had, I think we've helped save some marriages, you know, over the years. You know what I'm talking about. You got a husband and wife team, and you know, somebody gets tired of doing the billing, and they really would rather outsource it. We have helped many of those folks out over the years. So it's really automation, it's efficiency, it's having some tools. And again, you ought to look at the one pager that I mentioned, because if you're not sure you want to outsource billing, review that list. You will be surprised. There are things on there that I guarantee you are not able to do, and we are able to do, because this is really our specialty.
And you do need the experts to do this, and it takes away a lot of the hassle. You're going to get paid more quickly and at a higher rate. So
I will say quickly on the billing plus, which is the collections piece, that's optional. So that wouldn't be included in the 65 cents. Usually it's call us, but it's, you know, normally it's about $2 an account to do a series of things. So to do the texting, the emailing, calling, and then if we do need to issue statements, those are normally $1 for if we do a statement or a letter. So the paper is a little bit more, but the cost for the collections, very inexpensive for all of the stuff that we do on your behalf.
That's great. That's great. Do we have any more questions coming in? Well, seeing none, I just want to thank Scott and Shay for their time today, and I want to thank everyone for attending today as well. If you have any questions about how you can get paid better, please call the gentlemen on our screen, Scott and Shay. They've been doing it for 20 some odd years. They're experts at it. So with that, let's wrap it up, and everyone have a great day.
All right, Kevin. Thanks very much. We appreciate the time today. Thanks, everybody.
You're most welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And you would hit